Hello and welcome to the Tufunzeni Podcast. This is a space where we discuss education matters. In this today's first episode, we are going to talk about teachers and their journey. And I'm privileged to be joined by two amazing educators.
Hi, my name is Dennis Omolo. Very happy to be here.
And
Hi, I'm Sarah Gicheru, an educator, and I'm glad to be here today.
And I'm your host, Roselyne Ogaye. Now, let's look at your teaching journey, Dennis. Did you ever wanted to become a teacher, or where was the plot twist?
Wow, very interesting question. I will say yes and no. Yes, let me start with the no. No, because when I was growing up, of course, the professions you hear and the ones you admire are the traditional ones that we've always known to pay a lot of money. So everyone dreams to be a doctor or an engineer or something like that. And when I did my KCSE, or even after my KCP, I got decent grades. And so my teachers from primary school always thought that I should get into those fancy sounding professions. But somewhere during high school, it became very clear that I wanted to work with young people. I didn't know which profession, but then at some point, I realized that there was someone very important in my life, my teacher from primary school, who made a lot of impact, and he made me who I am today. And at some point, it became very clear that I should also try to make the same change and impact in somebody's life. So teaching became a no-brainer at some point. I didn't struggle with the decision, but growing up, yes, there were those times you felt like other professions were fancier sounding. Yeah.
Let's hear about Sarah's journey.
Wow. So my story is kind of his, but also different because for me, when I was growing up in primary school, I was not a good performer. Funny enough. So I didn't like school at first when I was in the early years. I remember asking my mom every time, you have to go to school. But then it got to a point I was transferred to a different school. And for me, going to that school, it was a private school. I was just there for, because it's a private school. So when you tell people, where do you study? You'll tell them, you're in this fancy school. And as I was there, that's when I discovered actually I had potential. So I started performing well. So if you asked me that time what I wanted to become, I didn't know. Then I went to high school. So high school, I continued, grounding myself and doing well in school. So then I decided that I wanted to become a teacher. If not teacher, I'll do forensic science because, they're the fancy careers we hear about.
Mm-hmm.
I remember doing my KCSE and then getting the results. And then I was told I'm going to do education. So I remember discussing with my dad and I'm like, what's this education about? I didn't even know what education is about. And then he would sugarcoat it because I never dreamt to become a teacher. So he would tell me, oh, this is about being a lecturer. He didn't tell me he was being a teacher because in our family, I remember one of my aunt making fun of my cousin who was a teacher and telling them, you'll be just saying every time, look here. So definitely my dad wouldn't have told me that you're going to become a high school teacher. So I went to campus. Actually, that's when, oh, okay, I have to select subject that I'm going to teach in. But it wasn't like at first, this is what I want to become. But I would say right now, it's the best decision I ever made. Yes.
So it seems you loved being a lecturer or you loved lecturers. That's why when you're told about lecturing, you are into it.
It seemed fancy. I think for me, I was going, what's fancy? What did you be telling people you are doing? You're like, oh, I'm Dr. This. Yes, I wanted something fancy.
Oh, the name was fancy for you.
Yes, lecturer, or definitely than just being a teacher. And you remember we had tied a teacher to look here. It's not just something fancy you'll be doing.
But now you've learned that even lecturers are teachers.
Yes.
That's nice.
Imagine.
So can you also share with us how your first journey or first year of teaching has been?
Wow, it's like deja vu because when I, enter into campus, first of all, without knowing you have been happy to become a teacher. And then you have to do teaching practice, first of all, without, going fast forward to when now you're teaching a whole year. So teaching practice, now you have to get a whole experience. I was teaching language, so I'm a Swahili teacher. And I can tell you, you have to speak Swahili fluently. At first, it was very tough for me. You don't got mix, you don't speak Sheng, and out here you are speaking Sheng. And now you have to teach people and tell them you have to speak Kiswahili Sanifu. So I remember where I went for teaching practice, leaning so much on the teachers were there to guide me on how to deliver the curriculum, but it was a bit tough. And then fast forward when I started teaching, I looked for a mentor who had taught Swahili for longer, because some of the things I used to teach, I was not taught in campus. I was taught Swahili and other courses and other units, but whatever you're going to teach in class is sometimes totally different from what you learned in campus. Yeah.
Of course, sometimes the journey comes differently with what you're now getting in the field and what we were told in school.
Definitely.
So, Dennis, do you have a different thing in your journey? Your first year, how it was?
I think most of our first journeys are the same. It's always starts with a shock. When you're in campus, there's some fancy way of looking at education. You think you're going to be, actually even forget about the class sizes that we had in high school. You feel like you're going to have 20 kids in class. You're going to have individualized attention. And then maybe your first year, you go into a school where the class size is of like 60 or 70. You can barely move around the chalkboard. So the first year is always of a shock. I went through the same thing. My first year, I actually volunteered because, as you know, getting jobs, especially after campus, can be a little bit of a challenge.
Sure.
So I did volunteering for a year in Kisumu County, and of course met all the challenges that I could face without a mentor, unfortunately. I think in my 13 or 14 years of teaching, I've only recently found a mentor after all those years. And that's a challenge that we have, especially with young teachers. So the challenge with discipline, you don't know how to handle many things. If you ask any young teacher or even older ones, they tell you that the first year is where you can contemplate and think, did I really make a good decision when you meet the challenges? Yeah, but I'm very glad that I went through it and the decision became more important as I went along. Yes. So the first year was full of challenges. And yes, I'm just glad I stuck around long enough.
So it's sounding that we do not have people bouncing into the classroom and celebrating like, now finally my campus days are over and now I'm into the profession. So now I am ready to take up the challenges and ready to take up the good moments that comes with it. But for after teaching now for quite some time,
Yeah.
I believe we all have stories to share. We have those stories from classroom to outside classroom. Can you just also share with us the funniest moment in your classroom as a teacher?
Wow, funniest moments. Okay, I think one of the things that almost every teacher goes through is where students mimic you. It's always a very good way of getting feedback. So for me, I think funniest is when I heard of my nickname for the first time. I won't tell you the nickname, but it was a good one because it came from something that I had been saying a lot. So you find someone, you get into class and you find someone was mimicking you. So I think that has been a funny moment in class. The other ones have been challenges because mostly dealing with indiscipline or class control or things like that. Yeah. So being mimicked in class by students.
So you said you are not sharing with us the name you're given?
No, I won't.
I will come for you. Maybe after this, you'll tell me that name. I'm now curious to know about it. What about you, Sarah?
So for me, mine, I would say it was funny for me too because one of my students got hold of my remote. Where I used to teach, we project. So they froze the screen and I didn't know the screen was frozen. So every time I'd try to go next, I'm wondering what's going on. So they when students saw like me struggling there, they were laughing and I'm like, what's going on? So I had to call someone to come and help me. And that's when they discovered the screen was just frozen. Then the remote, the one who froze, they froze and left the remote on the table. So it was just a matter of me unfreezing the screen and going on. So it was a laughable moment. And then I think also a moment for me to learn that maybe I wasn't very good at knowing how to use a projector. Then I would say right now I'm okay. But I was also laughable. I didn't even actually punish them. We laughed about it. I'm like, why would you do that to me? Like, you just want you want to see me suffer. And they were like, no, we were just having a little bit of fun. So,
I'm curious
yeah.
about that. Have you always laughed those off? Or there was a period in your life or in your journey where you would really get mad?
Yes, before I'll say,
Yeah.
I started teaching in a public school, and the way things were done, Nikiboko. So you beat the kids, I would have been actually very mad. But I would say when I came to now the private sector, you go through some trainings, you are told how to handle kids. Like now you have to think sometimes, maybe it's not malice. Sometimes it's not always malice. Maybe they just wanted to have a moment to laugh. It was an afternoon class.
Yeah.
So maybe they just want to have a little bit of fun. And I was like, okay, then next time I'm like, I'll see what fun moment I'll be bringing in before I'm like, okay, it's Kiswahili time. Everyone, we are serious. And then you at least try to become less serious in class and have those laughable moments and at least fun as you're teaching. Yeah.
And from your encounter, one thing that I can pick is that even teachers learn. We don't just teach, but we also learn from these students. As you've said, that you didn't know how to use a projector, you didn't know the TV was frozen, but you learned later that and now you can comfortably use a projector. So that's I want you to also look at the camera and tell even teachers watching this episode that we don't just go to those classrooms to teach, but it's also a learning session for us teachers.
Yeah.
Can you at least take 1 minute to tell teachers watching this episode that going to class is also a learning session for us?
I would say to all teachers that I've learned a lot from my student. Let me tell you, those moments when I was struggling to even join the project and all that, when they know you're approachable, they'll teach you a lot of stuff. So every time I would go, maybe I'm struggling, I'm like, Miss, let me help you. And they'll connect. If you struggle somewhere, they know, they got you. So always show them you're also willing to learn. If there's somewhere maybe you're teaching and they're like, this question, you're like, okay, what's your idea on it? Like, hear them out and you might learn. And actually, no, they know a lot. And nowadays, the kids we teach are not like us who are, it was not like now.
A lot has changed.
Yes,
in this
a lot has changed. Definitely.
Sure. So personally, I also had a very, very nice encounter in my first year. And I remember the funniest thing was when I was in class, I was teaching mathematics, and a cockroach just fell from behind the whiteboard. Wow. And I was the first person to scream and get out of class. You can imagine, you're the teacher, you're supposed to be the one taking care of these learners, you're supposed to be the one that making sure they're safe. But myself, I'm very scared about the spiders and the cockroaches and all that. So the moment I saw it, I ran outside, and I remember the director coming and saying, Miss Roseline, I know that is you. So you can imagine she could single out my voice from it. And it's the funniest thing. And I also felt embarrassed at some point, but it's my funniest moment. And I really, really love it from that day henceforth. So if we look at the teaching space, a lot comes with it. Sometimes we face challenges, but I believe there are always very nice things about teaching, very sweet moments in the teaching profession. And so I would want us to talk about the joyous moments that we've encountered in our teaching space. So maybe, Dennis, can you share with us what are some of the good things that you can say that you love about teaching?
For me, it's the connection with the kids, but the connection is always shown later on in life. Like when you meet someone you taught and they are happy to see you, that is always the test. Are they going to run away or they're going to come and greet you? Like, of course, it has just happened some minutes ago here in the studios. Yeah. So those moments where you meet someone you taught some time back and they're happy to see you, it shows probably that you treated them well. I've also found situations where something that I've talked about in class has triggered the kids to start a project, maybe. I remember some time back when we talked about someone, Francis Amonde, probably you know him. He runs a project called Cup of Uji, where he provides a feeding program to kids to stay in school. I talked to some of my students about it in Form 1, and it triggered them so much that they started reaching out to a neighboring school and sponsoring kids there. Now they have an organization that is fully fledged. Those moments remind you that the things you do in class, they matter, because if those small conversations can bring change outside class, then teachers, we are privileged. I always say that when you look at that classroom with all those faces, you are privileged because it can go either way. You can either make them or break them, make them to believe in themselves or break them down. So I've always felt like when I'm standing in front of kids, that is a privilege that most people or most professions don't have. And so, yeah, those joyous moments where the things we do in class trickle down to other things, and kids are very happy to see you. And yes, I have kids who are not very happy to see me because maybe I met them when I didn't know better, maybe the first few years, and I didn't treat them so well. So yeah, we get that feedback. Yeah.
And it was nice. I could just see how your student was very happy to see you until he even forgot that you're sitting with another person
With another
there. So
person,
it was just you,
Yeah.
my teacher. So
Yeah.
it feels nice, I believe.
And one of the things I think we forget before we move on is that however young they are, they have a sense of justice. They might not be able to talk at that point, but they know. And you will even be surprised that these kids, even if you're not doing a good job, you might feel like they need to be able to love you. For example, you're not giving assignments, so not giving them a lot of work, or you're just coming to class to tell stories. They will know that you're not doing the right thing, and they will call you out at some point in their lives. So this is something we always need to be aware of, that there's always going to be a sense of justice that is going to come back to bite us, either well or in a very bad way.
Yeah, for sure. So we don't just think that these learners are just
Yes.
there. They're actually picking a lot. And
they learn more from what we do than what we say.
What we say.
Yeah.
I was told that, your body language speaks volume. Like 85% people will be able to read what you are saying than the words that you'll actually say. And these kids, they are really active listeners and active learners in that manner. Oh, that's nice. Sarah, at what point did you say, or can you say that this is why I really need to do this teaching? Have you ever reached that moment where you say, I feel this is why I really, really need to be in this teaching space?
Yes. A lot of moments, just to mention but a few. I remember when I started teaching, I was a class teacher. I was teaching a day school. And some of the kids were from not very able backgrounds. So I remember as a class teacher, a Form 2 class teacher, a student not coming to school for long. And then for 2 weeks, and then I would ask, she was very good I am passionate about drama and music. So it is almost time to go for the festivals, and I'm always asking, why is he student? Why is she? And then I was told the parent was not able to pay fee, and she had to go to become a house manager somewhere. So I remember breaking down and wondering, okay, I have my small salary at the time because I was a BOM teacher. How can I help a student to get back to school? So I went to the principal to speak about it, and I told the principal, can I do a fundraising? I didn't even know where to start. But I was like, can I do a fundraising? Because the school fees was very little, but even if it's little, there was no way the parent can be able to pay, because she's used to like go do a job here and then paid, and then that's what they are taking. So I remember planning a fundraising for her. And I remember raising just 50,000. The student came out and they gave money, and then she came back to school. She went to school because I gave the money. I didn't give the mom the money. At first, I had to make sure the fee is paid. And we paid for her fee until Form 4, and she finished. And recently, I think it was last year, she sent me a message and invited me for her wedding. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go. But that's a moment I sit down and I'm like, yes, I love teaching, because when I see those, someone who would not have done it, or maybe would have just ended up being just a house girl somewhere, came back to school. And I saw her go up to Form 4. So I'm very proud of her wherever she is. When she sees this, I know she can be definitely as me. I'm very proud of her and how far she came.
Of course, that was so kind of you. So I believe that what we are getting is that we are not just teachers in the classroom. For sure, these people, the students that we are touching their lives, they're coming from different backgrounds. We want to be their teacher, but at the same time, we want to be their parents, their confident people that they can trust. And I just love how you went your way to raise funds to help. So that's amazing. I think this is something that not only the teachers can do it, but even the school administrators can also do this. If we see that there are learners who really need our help, let us be there to help. And I think connecting it to what Dennis talked about, giving work and just homework, you can imagine if such a student, you will give homework and they do not do. And maybe it's because there is something that is really, really bothering this child. And that will make me want to hear more about you in your own perspective about a learner who has not done homework or has tried to do homework, but just to do it, not doing it to your expectation. And then the teachers always, this is what we say, you're ever not doing your work. Or if you ever do your work, it is never neat or organized and all that. And then the child starts feeling like the teacher likes speaking on them. What is your take on these learners who do not do homework? How do you think that they can be helped?
So I'm giving teachers a challenge. As long as you have been given work to look after the kids, can you try and know them beyond them being in class? Because you might find that some of them are the ones taking care of their family back at home. So when you give them the math, you're a math teacher, you've given them like 10 math to go do, that kid might be the one cooking for their family that night and maybe also trying to do a lot of other things. When you know them beyond class, you can know where to support. Because when I started, like I said, I started in a very small school where I was doing the fundraising. I got to know so much about my student. I would talk to them and try and know, okay. And that's why they would even be vulnerable enough to tell me. Someone would tell me, my mom is not able, is able differently. And so when I go home, I have to be the one doing all the other chores. So when that student comes, even if they are late, even if they're untidy, you have to think why. Don't just be rushing to, these are the rules. And if you don't do these rules, I'm going to punish you. Let us try to know the student beyond the uniform, beyond them being good in math. And that way you can be able to support them a lot.
I think the challenge of teachers face, I think almost every teacher wants to know the kids beyond the classroom. But teachers are overwhelmed. I find myself sometimes, I promise some of my students, we should take a walk, we should maybe have a conversation this week, but then the week just passes by. It's a very big challenge about teachers being overwhelmed and not even finding time to create time to know students well. But that notwithstanding, yes, it is very important that we know where they're coming from. But it can also tell you about what is homework for. I find, and this is going to be controversial, I don't think we should be giving homework for, we should give as little homework as possible. And during the school holidays, I think kids should just be let to enjoy their holidays. Teachers should enjoy their holidays, kids to enjoy their holidays. And things like open exams, which you give the first week of the term. Why do you give them the first week of the term? What are you trying to test? Are you trying to test that they did not read? Yes, they did not read. We found during COVID, when we had those very short midterm breaks, I don't know, 3 days or something, or even now, you find that every subject teacher will give a kid homework. They go home, and now they spend the 3 days doing the homework. Why did they have to go home then? They could have just stayed in school and not gone for the holiday. It is something also we need to think about what this homework is going to do. We can be creative about it. For example, during the school holidays, why can't we tell them to just enjoy themselves, and then they can write about it later on, about what they did over the holidays, or how they connected with the society, or a project they did that helped their neighbors, instead of, we're always saying that they're going to miss out on something, but I think we need to rethink that also, the homework and the work we give them.
And there is something you've mentioned, Dennis, of teachers, every teacher wanting to know about the learners beyond the classroom.
Yeah.
But there is this situation. I believe maybe you'll agree with me. You may have also faced it, like the staff room talks.
Yeah.
Where a teacher has gone to class and he's like, Denise is never doing my homework. The other day, and then now, because you've said it in the staff room, Sarah will pick it. So when Sarah goes to class and Denise has not also done Sarah's work, so it's like, I know you always don't do homework. Such things also exist. So I believe, however much we'll say, there are those teachers who would want to know learners more beyond classroom. But there are also those teachers that once they've heard something about a student, they just want to define that child with whatever they've had. So they don't give this child room to really explain themselves and express why they've not done.
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes we make as teachers is we didn't have, there were some bits of modeling there was some bit of modeling that we got from our teachers, and we probably thought that was right. For example, I think maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong. In my previous schools, if you went to the staff room, the moment you enter and you find teachers, and all your sins, even the ones you did when you're in grade 1, will come out. You understand? And when you're being punished, a teacher who comes from nowhere will just still punish you or something like that. It's a modeling that we have been taken through, and we need to stop it. For example, if someone comes to the staff room to pick books, can you just be quiet? If you want to correct someone, we always say that correct them privately, praise them publicly. It's something that as teachers, we also need to try and do. I've seen a model in a school that changed the way I look at students. So it's a very small school of 100 kids, the whole population. And what they do at the end of the term, they do an evaluation of the kids. So there are photos of the students. It will just around 3 days, and they will project per class. So this is Roseline. The photo is projected. And the teachers say something about Roseline this term. One of the most amazing things I saw was that 90% of the feedback from the teachers was non-academic. They were not tied. It was not tied to the results. It was tied to personality. It was tied to co-curricular activities. That I see that Roseline these days is really concentrating in class. She comes to ask for help when she needs it. She helps people with, putting up the net during the game. I mean, those kind of things. So when you go through that, as a new teacher, if you go through that the whole 3 days, you know each and every child who has gone through an operation and is recovering, whose parents went through a divorce and it has affected them, all those things. It makes you look at the kids so differently. Every student has a story, and we need to find out that story. And we need to find out how that story affects their experience in school. I've seen situations where I've called a kid a name, those 3 names, Josephine so-and-so. And he tells me, please don't always mention the last name. And then I asked why. That one is a dad who left. So if you don't know that, you will not know why they will behave the way they behave. So yeah, Sarah, I think
I wanted to jump right in because I am thinking there's so many other ways, like the example you're giving.
Yeah.
One of the ways I used to try and know my student, if you're a class teacher, you always have a class meeting. Can you start with a game? So at first I gave student what is it called? A piece of paper.
Yeah.
They write about themselves. Like just try to write maybe something that maybe you think other people do not know about you.
Yeah.
So when they write the piece of paper, I collect them. So the next time when I come, before we start the meeting, it is the game. So let's see how much we know our classmates. So I just read out what they have written, and I'm like, drum rolls. Can you tell me who it is? So you'll find out that actually maybe they have a friend who knows them well. So if other members of the class didn't know about them, it's also a chance for them to know them, and also you a chance to know the student better. So there are ways, or like we are saying, someone is branded.
Yeah.
They don't do homework. They are always rude.
Yeah.
Why don't you call that student? If you're the class teacher, try and know them better. Why are they always the ones who don't do assignment? And if you sit them down, I actually notice kids have a lot to share.
Yeah.
They want to speak. They want to tell you.
They want
It's
to be
just that,
heard.
yeah, they want to be
Yeah.
heard. And the Gen Z you're teaching right now, they
Yes.
want to be heard. So it's good to listen. Let's listen. Let's not brand them. When you brand them, they are the bad people. And then also, you are the new teacher. You come and you're told, Teacher Dennis, the student now, know that Teacher Dennis is a very bad student. They are rude to you. Don't even go close to them.
They've
Then
also
you try and
branded the
call
teacher.
Dennis and
For
know
me,
who
for me,
Dennis
what I
is.
do is the bad kids, first thing I do in a new school, I make them my friends.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes. It works wonders because most of them have not been heard. Like you've said, they've not been heard, they've been branded. A parent once told me, please, I hope there's something positive about my kid. Because I know almost everything that is going to be said here is negative. Also, that reminds me, especially with parents, we don't look for the positive that you're looking for, a positive thing. But no matter how bad a child has been, or no matter how rough the time they've had has been, they always want to be told something new and positive about someone. I think that is something we also need to try and do. So about knowing kids also, because the model I saw that from a school that had 100 kids as a population, it might not be very sustainable for most schools that have thousands, 1,000 plus. What you can do as a class teacher or as a teacher, like I also do what you do. I also write the details in a notebook or something so that I know your birthday, what you love, what makes you happy, what makes you sad. And sometimes revelations are always very interesting so that you don't even generalize. For example, when you start teaching, you can always say, when you go home to your parents, do this. And then you realize, oh, this is a complexion of situations. So you start knowing even the language to use, even the examples to use. May not have parents, but knowing them. And especially schools where we don't celebrate birthdays. You don't celebrate, but just say, okay, today is so-and-so's birthday. Let's wish him a happy birthday. I've seen it working wonders, doing wonders. Just a kid knowing that you remembered that. Yeah. And lastly, also connecting with students, we always concentrate on knowing them. We should also let them know us a little bit.
I agree.
Yeah, for example, maybe a challenge you've had.
Yeah.
Or, okay, you don't share everything, but just a little bit so that they see you as a human being, not a robot.
Yeah.
The team you support. For example, one of the ways I connect with kids, I always tell them the team I support Man United. And we've had a terrible, terrible last 5 years. And so every time we are beaten on a Sunday, I know on Monday I'm going to have a rough time because on the board the first thing I'll see is the scores. Someone has written the scores, or they come and pat me on the back and say, sorry. That's a way of connecting.
Yeah.
So just letting them know something about you.
But one thing I also realize is that as teachers, we normally forget that the moment we brand these learners, the whole impact come back on us. Because once you've said that I'm a rude person and there is nothing good that I can ever do, definitely that's what I'll give you. The energy you give is what you get back. So there are these learners that they're just behaving the way they are simply because we've branded them and we've not taken time to listen to them. So they actually just want to prove a point.
Yeah.
Because you've said this is who I am, and you don't want to listen to my story so that you also help me get out of it, then let it be. So you'll find that learners are just doing these things. The ones that they say they're bad students, I don't believe in the term bad student because every child is born with every capacity, but whatever they're picking, the first model of learning is in the family where they're coming from. And as we are in a school now, it's a different space. It's a space where we have people from different backgrounds and people coming from different situations. So we have to look at a way that we have to embrace all these. And there was a point that you mentioned of teachers being overwhelmed. I know sometimes it can be overwhelming to just have all these learners, especially looking at a space where in a public schools where we have like 80 students in a stream, not even a class. You have from 1A, B, C, D, you have 4 streams and you have 80 students per stream. And then it can be overwhelming at some point for a teacher. Then how do you handle such cases or such times when teaching seemed to be overwhelming for you?
One thing I've realized is teaching doesn't stop. When other professions, they go on holiday, of course, we are lucky because we get more breaks than most professions.
Yeah.
But when other people in other professionals, they go on holiday, they are most of the time, they are concentrating on what they're doing then. But for us, we're always thinking about our kids. Like when I'm on holiday, I'm thinking, okay, I didn't make that lesson plan, or I'm not done those schemes, or what am I starting with at the beginning of the term? What can I do differently? All those things. So it can be overwhelming even when you are on a break. I have since been very deliberate about how I handle my time. So holidays, I try to take time off, try to travel whenever I find time. And it's always very important for us also to get other hobbies. At least you'll find things to tell kids. You can't just be talking about math or English or something. I want to tell you about the trip I went on, or the movie I watched, or the game I watched, or something. So it is important that we find ways of decompressing, of reconnecting with ourselves, of feeling. I'm not saying that teaching does not make you feel alive, but it is good for us to find something out of teaching that we do that makes us more complete also. So that is what I've done. And of course, it is important for us to do that also, because once we are rested, we can give more. If we don't rest, even the job that is making us really overwhelmed now will also suffer.
And we can even project now that back to the students, because when we are overwhelmed ourselves, we don't know how to handle.
And it's also good to create boundaries. I know Sarah will tell us about creating boundaries and even demarcating time and saying that maybe even with parents, letting them know when it is not a good time to call.
Yeah.
Now, with all these experiences that we've had, the fun moments, the most challenging moments in classroom, Sarah, in your own view, if you are not to be a teacher, because I think sometimes you feel like this is not for me, especially on the first years of your teaching and all that, or even up to these moments, sometimes maybe you can feel like something needs to be done, or I need to maybe pursue something. If you are not a teacher, what other career would you do, or will you pursue, and why?
So for me, all the venues I check, they also bring me back to students.
Wow.
Not teaching, but I can be a counselor. I love counseling, especially on careers. If not, I would be a drama teacher, like full-time, not language, but now doing drama with them. Like, I just love working with kids. They, every year or every cohort, you're dealing with different people. That's amazing. You know how many people we get to interact with in our lives? Different ones. Like, I love it. I feel fulfilled every time I interact with my student. Every time they leave from 4, you're like, oh, then you get another maybe class that comes in, and then you meet new people. So I think I love it. It can also be bringing back to working with students.
Yeah, because in schools we still do counseling, so you can still be a counselor in the school. Now let us wrap it, and as we wrap it now, I want us to wrap it with two questions. So the first question I want to ask is, Dennis, now that you're teaching, what would you want your kids or your students to remember you with in their lives?
It's a tough one, and it's something that we don't think about when we start teaching. Really, we don't. I always feel like as a teacher, you can really waste the chance you have if when you're retiring, you don't have very many students who can go back in their lives and say, okay, I met someone who changed my life. Let me just take this chance to give a shout out to a teacher who made me who I am, because when I was in primary school, I used to fail math. I was the worst. At some point, I was caned for 2 straight years. And at one point, my math teacher told me, you guys just go sit. It was caning people who had failed. And he told me, just go sit down. I'm tired. So I met a teacher in grade 7 who looked at my grades and said, oh, how come this boy is doing so well in these other subjects apart from math? Then he told me, we'll do a program for you. Maybe after school, you can pass by. I'll be leaving papers with my family members. You can always do them, and then I'll mark them or something. So he did that. And it turned out that it was the same concepts, but he was giving me a different perspective of them. Like this some where you're told there's a bus coming from Kisumu at these kilometers per hour and the other one from Nairobi, relative speed. I never used to understand that thing until he did some models actually and told me about speed and these vehicles meeting. And then it just clicked. He moved me from the worst to the top. But this is not about grades. This is about someone taking his time. And then when he realized that I was not going to be able to afford even the local, we were not going to be able to afford even the local secondary school, he tried everything to make sure I got a full scholarship for high school. Yeah. And then after that, he used to come see me in college. Whenever he was in Nairobi, he would call me, hey, Dennis, I'm in town. We should meet for coffee. You can imagine that. Even now, right now, he calls me. And it's the reason why I teach. I would like to be remembered the same way I remember him. That there's a teacher I met who made me believe in myself. There's a teacher I met at the worst moment in my life. It's not about the grades. But he told me that, hey, we're in this together. I'm here to be your protector. I'm going to be someone who's going to guide you, someone you can always call on. So it's a journey. It is very tough by the Sarah and Roseline, because eventually, what are we going to celebrate when we retire? It's not about even the package you're going to get. I've seen right now, I've always seen teachers being celebrated. Someone has retired and kids go and do shopping and they do a whole afternoon together. Oh, are we going to be those teachers, or are we going to be the teachers who kids are going to write about on Facebook how we mistreated them, are going to write articles and do podcasts about how we mistreated them? It's a question that every teacher has to ask themselves. I hope the answer for me will be, I'll be the teacher that is going to be remembered by the students as,
and I know your math teacher must be feeling very good
if
he's watching these.
It changed my life. It's called Mr. Kudo.
Mr. Kudo.
Kudos. Yes. Yeah.
What about you, Sarah? How would you want your students to remember you?
I would want my students, I think I resonate with what Dennis is saying. They remember me as someone who believed in them, someone who listened to them, laughed with them, and actually helped them grow from the people they entered and the people by the time they were exiting. Because I'll also like to shout out, I don't know what's with the math teacher today. Maybe you'll be, you're a math teacher. So Miss Tige, my primary school teacher, I told you as I started, I wasn't very good in education or anything before I transferred. That teacher used to encourage me. She used to meet with my mom. I'm a village girl. I always say I'm a village girl and a proud one. So when she'd meet with my mom, she'd always check on me and ask, and then my mom would be, I met with Miss Tige and she was asking how you are. So because she used to encourage me, do well in math, but I was so terrible in math. Yeah. I used to copy other people's assignment. Yeah, I know when my students see this, they'll not believe it.
And feel bad when they copy.
Yeah. So I think because of that belief and seeing, someone can actually see you can do something. When I went to private school, I tried, put my best foot forward and did well. And what was amazing is she came for my graduation.
Wow.
When I saw her, I was like so happy. So I would want to be that teacher. You're always following your students. What are they doing? Yes. So I would like them to remember me as someone who believed in them even when they didn't believe in themselves.
That's quite encouraging. Yeah. Now, I want to give each one of you 30 seconds to speak to someone who is just joining teaching or is thinking of pursuing this profession.
Yeah.
Please, what do you tell them, Dennis, in 30 seconds?
I would say this is probably one of the most important professions in the world. Will always be. Whether there's going to be AI taking over, of course it won't. This profession needs you to love working with young people. It needs you to love forming connections, but it needs you more than anything to know that you're going to be in a position of creating impact that is going to reverberate through generations. This impact can be either negative or positive. And that is why it is a very, very delicate profession. And for someone thinking about getting into teaching, I would just say that you have a chance. And especially if you've not started teaching, this is a chance that some of us don't have. Some of us made mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
You have a chance to just get it right from the word go. Just love doing what you do and know that it is about helping people get to know themselves and reach the heights that are going to be better than yours. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Sarah?
So I would say this is the most noble profession you can ever get. Let's think about Jesus. I'm not preaching, but he was a teacher. So when you're coming here, ensure you're also coming to bring change. Be an educational change maker. Think about all the lives you'll touch. Because if you have to teach like for 20 years, imagine how many kids you'll have met with. So go there wholeheartedly. Don't look at the pay. I know sometimes people say about, teachers, the pay and all that. So just go there to help students, help all the students you meet. And I'm telling you, you will feel fulfilled. You'll not even be looking at the money. When you meet with your student out here and they're doing well, let them do well than they came in. Yeah, that's all I would say.
Thank you so much, Dennis and Sarah, for making time for us in this the Tufunzeni podcast. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate the insights and enlightening the society and the whole world, because you when you touch one life, you never know where this life is going to end. So this thing might just be something that you think you're just doing it wherever you are, but it's something that can be spread throughout the globe. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate. And until next time, keep it at the Tufunzeni Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.